Rogel Dawn's eyes widened, as if the true enormity of what he had done had just sunken in. The Warmaster fell to his knees and began to weep. He gazed into his father's eye and began to mutter that he was sorry. How he was so sorry. For a brief moment, the gods of the warp had their grip on the Warmaster weakened, and in desperation, the Emperor extended his sole remaining hand. Rogel Dawn nodded, knowing what was to come. Horus Lupercal appeared on the bridge at the exact moment the Emperor unleashed what little of his powers he had left, punching a hole through Rogel Dawn's body where Angron had struck him, the intensity of the psychic blast causing Rogel Dawn's armor to be turned to dust before his body exploded in a blinding flash of light. Not a trace of Rogel Dawn remained. No bone, skin, not even his soul was spared from the blast. The Emperor fell back and laid still. Horus Lupercal rushed over to his father's side, his armor wheezing and clanking as he ran as fast as his cataphractii plate would allow him to. He cradled his dying father in his arms and wept. The Emperor raised his hand to his son's cheek and smiled softly. "The Golden Throne," he said. "Take me to the Golden Throne, and I may yet survive." Horus picked his father up in his arms and raised a communique to the Imperial Palace as the Custodes and Loyalist Astartes entered the bridge soon after, requesting for immediate teleportation back to the palace. With the psychic shockwave of Rogel Dawn's death, the traitor forces began to flee. The Warmaster was dead. The war was over. The Loyalist forces cheered as they mounted a final counterattack on the traitors besieging them, causing them to flee. Perturabo sighed in relief. They had won, and for the first time in years, began to smile and laugh. Sanguinius ordered for the Blood Angels to retreat, to take what goods they had and escape while they still could. Aeonid Theo delivered a mighty swing of his power sword that left a deep gash across the angel's face. Sanguinius hissed in fury. He didn't have time for this. The rebellion was over. All that mattered was to retreat while they still could. He unleashed a blast of kinetic force that knocked Theo to the ground, and left. Lionel Johnson began to try and skulk away, but a familiar sight appeared before him. Before he had a chance to react, Alpharius impaled his brother with the weapon, the Pale Spear. Lionel Johnson felt his body weakening before falling to his knees. Alpharius smiled and walked away. A crackling green light filled the throne room of the Imperial Palace, and Horus Lupercal hurried to the Golden Throne, the frail body of the Emperor in his arms. The deceased body of Malcador the Sigillite was removed from the throne, his life been snuffed out by the stress of having to keep the turbulent energies of the warp in check for so long. The Regent of Terror, the hero of Terror, would be given a funeral worthy of his accomplishments. The Lunar Wolves carried the body of the hero Angron, whose sacrifice allowed the Emperor to defeat the traitor. His body would be returned to his legion out of respect. Meanwhile, on the Ultramarines' flagship, Rabute Gilliman and Conrad Kurz continued their duel. The very ship began to explode around them as the Wordbearer's fleet opened fire. Gilliman roared in frustration, and Kurz laughed like a maniac as oblivion claimed both of them.